I'd like to quickly tell you about who Premier Corex are and how we're using our experience and lab services to support the energy transition. I'd like to tell you a bit about our history, our experience, and show you some of the kinds of lab studies that are done to support carbon capture and storage, green hydrogen, and similar types of energy transitions. Firstly, who are we? So Premier Corex, we're a laboratory services company. We've been in the UK, in Aberdeen, in our laboratory for over 35 years, doing analysis on rock and fluid. And that gives us a lot of experience in measuring things like rock properties, understanding the rock, providing data which helps us understand the potential behavior and aid in planning and operations for things like carbon capture and storage, green hydrogen storage. And this is all good experience that we can be tapping into for use in these new projects that we're seeing in the industry. One thing we like doing is assisting with research and development projects, and we're very keen to be working in this area of net zero or renewable energy type projects as well. Specifically in the area that we're thinking about at the moment, carbon capture and storage, we've got good experience already. We have high-tech laboratories that we can use to look at things like dense phase carbon dioxide, liquid phase carbon dioxide, gas phase carbon dioxide. We've designed equipment specifically to look at carbon capture and storage and fluid behavior. We've already done carbon capture and storage consultancy for an upcoming potential UK project. In the past, we've also done core testing and simulations on a UK Southern North Sea pilot project to understand the way that the gas and the reservoir interacted together and try and improve the way things were done there. And right now we're starting a project for Southeast Asia for a large project out there. Firstly, we're offering consultancy, and secondly, we have just started core testing to help them understand the way that their reservoirs will behave and their suitability for carbon capture and storage. We say we've got a lot of experience. Why is it relevant for things like carbon capture and storage, green hydrogen? But the fact is, similar principles are used no matter what kind of rock that's being tested. So understanding those properties, it's good to have experience in examining those properties. Also, many of the reservoirs that are being used for carbon capture and storage and green hydrogen have previously been examined. These are rocks that are subsurface and have been tested in the past, and if not, similar ones have been tested. So tapping into that experience with either knowing these exact rocks or knowing how similar rocks should be tested and should be behaving is a shortcut to allow things to be done more efficiently, lower risk, and save costs by not reinventing the wheel. Use the experience that exists to help a leg up on these projects that are upcoming. We think that rock is very important to understanding how the success of these projects could play out, and I'd like to give one example of that. If we think about the reservoirs that we have, these are subsurface reservoirs typically, not always, but typically, where we have a reservoir zone, a seal unit on top, and if we scale that down to a smaller scale, a core sample, imagine we've got this porous volume of rock where the carbon dioxide or hydrogen would be injected. There's a seal or a cap rock on top of it. And that's very important, the integrity of that, to keep the carbon dioxide or other gas in place. If we lose that seal, we lose the carbon dioxide. A great analog for that is a bottle of soft drink. If we have the seal on that, there's carbon dioxide inside that bottle, but it's dissolved inside the soft drink in the fluid. If we shake that and then break the seal, it all fizzes up and disappears out because we've reduced the pressure, we've lost the seal, the carbon dioxide escapes. Now, if that happens in carbon capture and storage, we've got multiple consequences. We've got health and safety consequences, we have environmental consequences, and we've lost our reservoir. So understanding the nature of the seal unit and what conditions it can take and how changes we make to the reservoir could affect the seal is very important. So that's a key aspect where understanding the rock could help us understand the reservoir. And there's not very many studies done on cap and seal rocks, don't tend to be done in the industry. However, they're very important for carbon dioxide. So what are the kind of studies that we should be thinking about for these reservoirs? If we classify them into two areas, the seal unit and the reservoir. The seal unit, we should be thinking about, do we have a good seal? Will it fail under the conditions of injection and pressures that we're thinking about injecting and storing under? And does the carbon dioxide impact it? The nature of carbon dioxide can interact with the reservoir fluids and rock and change them. And if these changes make the rock weaker or more liable to fail, that's something that's very important to know. The reservoir itself, we need to understand the properties of the reservoir which affect the success of our carbon capture and storage. So that is the capacity of the reservoir. What's the intrinsic porosity and capacity of the rock? What can we actually inject into it? Because there may be a different answer there. During injection, how will the rock behave? Will it change? Will the pores get smaller? Will the capacity get smaller? Will it get higher? This all relates to what the rock is made of and how it interacts with the carbon dioxide as it gets injected. And then really importantly, can the carbon dioxide impact the rock? Rock is not inert. It's not like cement. Rock has minerals that are sensitive to different chemistries in joining them. And when we have carbon dioxide, it can change the things like the chemistry, the pH, the salinity. So if we have fluids in the rock, they can react badly. If we have certain minerals in the rock, they can react badly. So it's good to know these things before they happen rather than after they happen. Typical studies that are used specifically for carbon capture and storage, but this is very applicable to other things we want to do, like green hydrogen storage. We do things like core analysis and petrography to study the reservoir rock and understand its nature. We then go into more advanced core tests, dynamic properties, to help us understand how the reservoir will behave under real conditions. Also key to this is the strength of the rock and how it behaves as the stress changes. That's called rock mechanics. And in hand with that, we have fluid analysis to understand the fluids that are there in the rocks before we inject the carbon dioxide, see what happens when we introduce carbon dioxide to them. Does it change? Does it cause issues? That leads straight into compatibility. Do we see fluid interaction with carbon dioxide causing things called scales, precipitates that can happen during injection? And does that have a potential impact on the injectivity? And then one thing we also want to look at is when we actually convert the wells or drill the wells for carbon capture and storage. We've got to do that. Now, there's lots of things that can happen during the drilling or conversion of existing wells to limit the injectivity. That's where we go into an area that we call formation damage. And we're kind of trying to brand this as improved carbon injectivity. If we think that geological reservoirs can react when we drill and complete them, this is what we need to do to create the wells for carbon capture and storage. They can also react when we inject the carbon dioxide, and they can react if we change the conditions. So that might be early on in the carbon injection process, or it might be later on. But there are lots of things that we can do during the well life cycle that can have an impact on the injectivity of the carbon dioxide to create these mechanisms that harm the injections, be it incompatibility with the fluids used to drill or complete the well, the carbon dioxide causing precipitation or change in the rock, or change in the rock conditions, changing the nature of what's in the pores in the rock. So we like to say that an important thing to think about is these compatibility and what we do in the well, because if we can avoid these, we can improve carbon injectivity, maximize value, reduce risk, and hopefully have a successful outcome. So last up, just a quick summary of how we feel we can help and what we want to do going forward in this. First up, we want to use our existing experience to assist with these kind of developments. We already have specific experience, and we have many years of relevant experience that can be directly applied to this. We've got world-class labs here in the UK, also elsewhere in the world, where we can identify these risks and add value and make things simpler for those who are planning these kind of projects. If we can do this now, we can avoid this before it happens in the development, and then potentially there's safety, financial impacts to that. We're always keen to talk to people about research projects related to carbon dioxide, hydrogen storage, anything like that. And we're actively right now looking for research funding to produce a catalogue of the kind of reservoir rocks seen in the UK and in Europe most suited to carbon dioxide and hydrogen storage. We believe there's a really good opportunity to profile the types of reservoirs, understand them, and use that to help plan these kind of projects. Thank you very much for your time.